And airport security is going to be extremely tight this week as U.S. officials beef up operations after the terror plot to blow up a Northwest Airlines flight on Christmas Day. It now appears that the plan to blow the airliner up was hatched in the Middle East country of Yemen, which is near Saudi Arabia. The suspect in the terror plot is talking, and he's pointing the finger directly at al-Qaeda, operating out of Yemen. According to ABC News, 23-year-old Nigerian Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib spent months training for his Christmas Day suicide mission. And apparently, he has direct ties to an American-born radical cleric now living in Yemen. That cleric, Anwar Awlaki, is also linked to the Fort Hood shooter who went on a rampage last month.
All the roads point back to Yemen. They point back to Awlaki. I think it's a pretty deadly combination.
The terror suspect comes from a wealthy Nigerian family, lived in an upscale London neighborhood, and went to fancy schools. At some point along the way, he became a radical, and his father actually brought concerns about his own son to authorities. Abdul Muttalib was even on a U.S. terror watch list, but he wasn't on the no-fly list. There will now be congressional hearings, even though administration officials are defending the process.
The system has worked really very, very smoothly over the course of the past several days.
Some beg to differ.
This is, in my view, probably one of the worst situations I've ever heard of. And to cast this as the system working is not really what the American public needs to hear.
All right, let's get more from this now. CBN News terrorism analyst Eric Stakelbeck here with us. Eric, why Yemen? You know, we've heard a lot about Afghanistan, but why is al-Qaeda operating out of Yemen here?
Well, David, a lot of U.S. officials believe that Yemen is the new Afghanistan. If you take a look at it, David, it's got all the classic qualities of a terrorist safe haven. Number one, a desperately poor country. Number two, very poor, very medieval type infrastructure. Number three, very young population. I think it's something like half of the Yemeni population is under the age of 15. And with that weak central government, there's been really no oversight. There's just really rugged tribal areas throughout Yemen, very rugged mountainous terrain, really similar to those tribal regions of Afghanistan and Pakistan. And it seems now with all of the U.S. military's pressure on those tribal regions in Pakistan that al-Qaeda may be shifting its focus to Yemen, seeing it as more safe ground to train. And I spoke to a U.S. official last night close to military intelligence, David, who told me just last week 2 jihadists were arrested across the street from the U.S. embassy in Yemen, and they were carrying explosives. It gives you an idea just how dangerous the situation there is.
You know, you're fighting the situation here in Yemen, the United States is, but what about security measures across the United States? I mean, this raises a broader issue here. Are these security measures enough?
No, David, they're not. I think this situation should not have happened. Quite frankly, Abdul Muttalib should have never been on those flights. He was on a terrorist watch list. He was not on a no-fly list. But if you are on a terrorist watch list, you should, in the very least, get a pat down. If he was patted down in airport security, they very well may have found this underwear bomb that he was wearing that he apparently acquired in Yemen. But that didn't happen, David, for at least 2 years. U.S. officials knew about this guy, and even Britain. He was barred from entering Britain, which isn't exactly, Britain's not exactly the picture of stringent visa requirements, to say the least. This should not have happened, David. Fort Hood should not have happened. Right now, the jihadists are probing our weaknesses, and unfortunately, they're finding many of them.
Eric Stakelbeck, keeping an eye on it from D.C. Appreciate it, Eric. Thanks.
Thank you, David.
Here at home, shoppers spent a little more this Christmas season. It's another sign that the economy is turning around. One analyst says that last year the economy was in, quote, critical condition, but he adds that this year it is in stable condition. Even the major winter storm that came through didn't hurt sales badly because people were shopping before the storm hit. Teenage girls in the United Kingdom are using repeat abortions as a form of birth control. The London Daily Mail reports that some girls are having 4 or more abortions by the age of 18. Nearly 1,500 of the 19,000 teen girls seeking an abortion last year had undergone at least one earlier termination. And in at least one case, a teen girl had 8 abortions. Pro-life activists say the numbers raise concerns about the physical and emotional well-being of the teens having abortions who don't see abortion as a traumatic event, but rather as a routine birth control procedure. A new survey looks at the most and the least religious states in America. Mississippi ranking number 1 as the most religious. The 82% of those surveyed said religion is very important in their lives. Up next, Alabama and Arkansas. They're both tied for second with 74%. That's just ahead of Louisiana and Tennessee. Now at the bottom of the list, a place you probably don't want to be, Vermont and New Hampshire, only 36% respectively. The rest of New England, Alaska, and Colorado were also among the least religious states. Now, you can find the full survey from the Pew Center Forum on Religion and Public Life on CBN.com. An American missionary apparently has been detained in North Korea. Robert Park, seen here, is a Korean American who entered North Korea illegally from China on Christmas Day. About 25 members of Park's church in Tucson, Arizona, gathered to pray for his safety over the weekend. Park is carrying a letter calling on North Korean leader Kim Jong-il to release all political prisoners. He told associates that he hopes to bring attention to the plight of persecuted Christians in North Korea. At least one South Korean ministry to the north tried to persuade him not to go. The U.S. State Department says it is monitoring the situation. The Blind Side, the movie, is still doing strong at the box office. The film stars Sandra Bullock in a true story about a Christian family who adopted a homeless boy named Michael Orr. He went on to become a college football star and then play in the NFL for the Baltimore Ravens. The film finished number 6 over the weekend with nearly $12 million. But in 6 weeks of release, it's now made nearly $185 million, close to $200 million. The movie is likely to cross that barrier in the next few weeks, making it one of the highest grossing pictures of 2009. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News. You do that by going to our website, cbn.com. You can get all the top stories, features, and a whole lot more. Gordon Terry